Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Chrism, and I'd like to welcome you to this program about your Kundalini awakening experiences. My name is Chrism, and it's a happy day to do this program. I see we have some guests on. We have some familiar faces as well as some callers, and so I'd like to say hello to all of you and go ahead and get this going. I have to say in the beginning that Her Holiness, the Celtic Queen of Questionable Entertainments, Amelia Santara, will not be joining us in this program. She needs to take some time off in the Kingdom of Kerry in the southwest portion of Ireland. But she has sent me some questions and things of that nature so that we can cover some of those areas as well. And so I'm just going to dive right in as best I may. And here we go. So a lot of times people become very, very, very concerned at a specific level of mental incapacitation that can occur with the Kundalini. You won't be able to make a decision, or you won't be able to control some aspect of your normal life in some, in many different ways. You won't be able to do that because your brain stops working in the same way that it always has. It's very important to understand that nothing's wrong with your brain. Actually, within this context, more is going right for your brain than would be going wrong with it. And it's very important for people to understand this so they don't go into fear and they don't go to the psychologist. And the psychologist says, here, let me turn you into my chemical experiment and give you all these pharmaceuticals. And basically, there's no need for the pharmaceuticals. There's no need for the psychologist or the psychiatrist or the counselor or the whatever you want to call them. No need for that. What there is a need for is for you to trust in this process. Once again, we're coming back to that theme, that eternal theme of trust in the Kundalini. And as I talk about trust in the Kundalini, I'm going to ask the people in the chat room if the sound is coming through clearly. So Vicky or Michelle or Emma, if you would please let me know by typing sound is good or sound is bad. And that will give me some more confidence in continuing. Although I love talking to the air, it doesn't fit well with everyone. So okay, it looks like Emma says the sound is okay. Vicky says it's okay. Michelle says it's clear, and she's calling from Australia. So I'm thinking, yeah, we are hot, we are live, we are on it. All right, looks like we have some new callers coming in from the great state of Minnesota. And so here we are. So yeah, so as your brain will kind of tilt into this level of dysfunctionality, if that's a word. And this dysfunction can show itself in many different ways. You can have a total lack of interest in the opposite sex or your spouse or your partner. Almost to the point of just wanting to be by yourself all the time. This is normal. This does not mean that you don't love your spouse or your partner or your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. It just means that the Kundalini wants you to isolate for a little bit, and that's necessary sometimes. Just like Santara. Santara right now, she's isolating a little bit in the south of Ireland, in her swimsuit on the beach, drinking beer, or what do they call it? One of those mugs of ale, no. Well, drinking some, yeah, I'm just kidding anyway. She's not drinking anything like that. Anyway, so we need to have that isolation sometimes. And that means from family, friends, even work, if you can do it. Not everybody can do it, but certainly when you come back from work, you can just kind of go into an isolationist position for a little bit. Let people know beforehand so that they don't have their feelings hurt. And if you have small children, well, do your best. Do your best with that. The brain is starting to go through the transformation process. And so as the brain goes through the Kundalini transformation process, you start running into these areas of change. And because it's something that's unfamiliar with us, we label it as a problem or an issue or a mistake, or why is Shakti doing this to me, or what's wrong with me, and how come my life is going this way? I can't make a decision. I don't know where to live. I don't know where to work. I don't know who to love. I don't know what to choose. These types of things will come up into the mind, and you really need to just kick down and trust. Trust the Kundalini. Seriously, folks. Trust the Kundalini. It is literally the divine hand upon your shoulder, changing very slowly within divine context, changing very slowly, very gently your brain function, your brain processes, the level of consciousness that you have grown up with, that you have sharpened to that amazingly successful, beautiful, wonderful person that you all are, regardless of whether you think that about yourself. If you're here, you're listening to this program, there's a level of success that you've achieved, whether you think that or not. And so as the divine will gently begin to change things in the brain function and in the emotional function as well, because the heart and the head are actually intrinsically connected. There are neural cells in the heart. I mean, they've proven that they found brain cells that the heart produces. So the heart and the head are two brains of different nature. Okay, and so they are two brains that are actually one brain in two different positions on the body. So once again, we got the two that are one and the one that is two. And so these functions start to be changed within the individual, and it's not easy all the time, and it's not easy especially when you're in resistance with it. You still got to pay your bills, so you still have to work in that mundane mindset. You still have to drive your car on whichever side of the road that your country drives the car on. You still got to, look out for other drivers. You still have to be nice and dependable. You still have to keep your promises and keep your contracts and do your work and do all these things. And at the same time that you're doing all of this, you've got to have a strong level of trust within the Kundalini all the time. And at first, yes, it is a bit discomforting. It changes your standards of comfort, and it changes the way you kind of begin to look at your life. You're kind of being invited to learn to think in a different way. You're being invited to learn to think in a different way. Once again, this is not a problem. This is actually progress. Now, some of you, will be falling into fear. And I have a few people on the various groups now that are falling into heavy, heavy, heavy levels of fear. One woman is heading off to the hospital. The fear and the anxiety just take control. And she, is kind of refusing to have any level of self-control. And so she's becoming the reaction rather than accepting the reality. You understand what I'm saying? She's becoming the reaction to her fear rather than understanding the reality that she has Kundalini and things are changing. And so that might be the cause of her egotistic fear. And so off to the hospital she goes, and they pump her full of mood stabilizers and things of that nature. And really, there's nothing wrong with her, but because things are different, the strangeness of the unknown, the fear of the unknown, is she's allowing that to take her over. And that's not a hard thing to do. I remember early on in my process too, the weird things that would happen were just mind-boggling, and it could be really, really destabilizing. And I went into fear quite often. I would avoid certain things. When some of the phenomena is just really out of the world. Watching like giant reptiles try to feed off your energy, or having huge creatures walking through a forest that you're meditating in, and watching the trees be kind of tossed aside as things come towards you. It's enough to really kind of take you out of your meditation. putting it lightly. So I'm not suggesting that fearful events don't deserve the fear response. Most times they do, but not repeatedly. After a while, you got to kind of get used to these things, and you got to kind of say, hey, be nice to the trees. Eventually, they're not going to kill you. They're not going to hurt you that way, but they want you to think that. And so, that fear response becomes, a test for you, how to control your ego, because it's the ego that fears. Nothing else does. Okay. And it looks like we have a few callers here. So I'm going to go over here to Miss Priya. We have the Priya caller. Hello, Priya caller. How are you?
Hi, Chrism. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
You are good. I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you very much. And I wonder, you have a question for the audience?
Okay. First, Chrism, thank you for today.
Just a second, Priya. I just want you to know that millions and millions of people are listening to you right now. So no worries.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
My question is, Chrism, what is detachment, and how to get detached with the soul connections?
With the phone connection?
With the soul connections.
The soul connection. Detachment is a level of not caring. It's not having, for the most part, an emotional attachment to a situation or a thing. So if I'm not attached to an apple, well, that just means I don't really care to eat the apple or look at the apple or partake in any way, shape, or form of the apple. It doesn't mean that I dislike the apple. It's not that at all, because that's just another form of attachment. It's a neutrality about a certain subject or thing. So that's detachment, and that's the neutral balance that the Kundalini would want you to have. And then what was the second part of your question?
It's how to get detached with the soul connection.
With the soul. So you want to detach from the soul connection?
Yeah, Chrism, I do.
What's the soul connected to?
Okay, you are there. You have the background.
Wait a minute.
Right?
Are you moving your phone around? We're getting a lot of static on your microphone there.
Yeah, I was moving my laptop a little. Sorry about that.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, yes. I am trying to get detached to my ex, right? And yeah.
Okay. So that scenario that takes a very specific recipe of detachment, and one of the first ingredients to that recipe is to allow that person's life and love and expression to go to God. You give that to God. You give it to the grace of the divine, and you let the grace of divine guide that person in the way that is best for their evolution without you. You, on the other hand, as you give away that responsibility of being attached at the heart and attached at the second and first chakras, attached at the fifth, and all of these areas, as you begin to detach in these ways, you begin to enter a state of neutrality. And what you might do, is you might look at the cords emanating from your chakras towards a let's just say a built-up image of that person in front of you. And you look at where the cords are going, and you take a pair of scissors and you cut those cords. And you turn that into a little meditation. And so you cut the cord at the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. You cut them all, and you feel, you can actually see the cord that is, the ends of the cord that are attached to you will basically flow back into your body. And you'll see the cords flow back into the other person's body, and then see them turn away, and you turn away as well. And, that is one way of achieving a level of detachment from that individual. And you need to stop perseverating. The more you perseverate on this person, the more you think about them, the more you imaginary talk with them, or you remember conversations or experiences or things of that nature, you need to let that be forgotten. It's part of your life experience, and that's true, but you must take a conscious step towards actual focused forgetfulness with that. You understand?
Yep.
Have you been doing that?
Well, I'm trying a lot, Chrism, to be honest, and I have come a long way. But what happens is I still see him a lot in the dreams. So, and then there are times when you are really, moving away, and then you see more signs, and then more dreams, and then, and that's when it all comes back again.
I think this is more of the egocentrism. When we were doing devotion at a time. And were you getting a lot of imagery of this person during the devotional periods?
Well, it is, right? So even those times, so it is continuous, Chrism, for me. Again, as I said, I've come a long way.
How? How have you come a long way?
Well, it's like when I see things or the synchronicities, I ignore them. Earlier, they used to impact me. Now they don't impact me that much. And earlier, I was holding the anger. Then there was a period when there was too much anger, and then there's a period when it's like it's okay. It was important. So now I think it's more acceptance.
I think you should go along with what you've been doing. It seems to be successful. It may not be going at the speed that you want it to go to, but you're achieving success with it.
Thank you, Chrism.
Well, you're welcome. The pain of detachment is what drives a person to really want to release the attachment to another person, especially a lover, in that way. And you really want to do what you're doing consciously. Change your thought process. Take control of your mind rather than reacting to what the ego places in your mind. I mean, it's very, very difficult at first. I've been through this, Priya. I know what this feels like. This is, early on in my process, I had to deal with this, just like you are. And the cutting of the cords, I thought, was very effective for me. Okay. Getting into the work that I was doing was also very effective for me. Doing selfless service for other people was very, very effective for me because it took me away from focusing on the egocentric mindset, which would always go back to that lover. Always go back to that lover. That's that whole primal thing that we're taking control of, trying to change. And these changes are overt, and because of they're so overt, and they don't come natural, shall we say, to the emotional body, we have to work at them. And I think it was one of the poets that I mentioned lately said in a poem that I didn't post this on a group. I just kind of read it as I was selecting a quote. And basically, this poet was saying, we need to learn how to let go more than we need to learn how to hold on to. And he says, holding on to is natural. And if you put a finger in a baby's fist and they're going to hold on to that thing, right? Holding on is a very natural thing. And the ego will hold on to certain things. We need to learn to do what you're doing, Priya. It's an incredibly important lesson that you're bringing up here, and I want to thank you for that. We need to learn to. Oh, you're welcome. We need to learn to let go of our egocentric control over how we think and how we feel. Letting go of a lover is one of the hardest ones to do. Because when you're inside the relationship, everything is good. And even if it's not good, well, at least we're together. And, oh, gosh, we get married, have a house, have a fence, have a dog, have a cat, have a child, have a parrot, have a donkey, have a horse, maybe some pigs, and flowers. Right?
Yeah. And it's hard, when, I am like not even in touch for 2.5 years now, absolutely no contact. And, things still happen. And it's a long
These
process.
are the ones that take the longest time, or the death of a lover, or actually a death of a lover is a little bit easier because, it's a final thing. I mean, it's a final deal. Not to say that it isn't painful, but the finality of death changes the mind's interpretation of the possibility of reuniting, right? And it's you're getting in the dream life, you're getting these invitations for reuniting within a situation that no longer exists. And so the scenario is for you to really continue to do the work you do. Consciously put it away. Consciously cut those cords. Cut them. See them cut. See him turn away. Feel yourself turn away. I mean, you need to know how to let go before you can honestly know how to grab on beyond instinct, beyond the selfish, egotistic needs. And so this is a great lesson that you're experiencing, that you're teaching other people about this right now. It's extremely important that we cooperate with this brain and heart change, transformation that the Kundalini is offering. Okay, we need to know how to let go of attachment. And for you, Priya, it's, she's giving you, a very, very hard equation right now. She gave the same one to me. And you just must keep going with it. The lover that the issue that I had was also, this person was still living. This person, I could call them up anytime, and you have to resist those urges. You have to resist wanting to have any level of contact with them whatsoever. And as you do this over and over and over, day by day, hour by hour, week by week, month by month, you will finally reprogram that part of your heart and your brain. And the Kundalini will assist in that reprogramming as well by expanding it and amplifying it and adding on to it other things such as say being attached to a certain car or a certain piece of furniture or maybe a house or certain things to be detached from. It's like, oh my God, is my bank account as wealthy as that person I work with over there's bank account? How come they're getting paid more than blah, blah, blah? We get attached to all these different things. And so part of the transformation that is happening for you from your Kundalini Priya is to let go of this relationship. Just let it go. Now, I know, a lot of the people will be thinking, oh, but what if it's your soulmate? What if it's your twin flame? No. If it's your soulmate, if it's your twin flame, you're not separated. It's not finished. It's not over. You're still, hanging out with each other. You're still next to each other. You're still doing all these things. And they have as much interest in you as you have in them. And there's a very strong, tight bond of universal awareness between the two people, which is so rare that it just irritates me, which is why you hear that little bit of a tease in my voice when I speak of soulmate, is because it's more of a wish fulfillment type of scenario than it is an actual reality. And so, there is no soul connection to this person, Priya. It's an ego connection that is being misinterpreted as a soul connection.
Agree, Chrism. Of course. I think it's the ego, and working on it has been the hardest thing that I have to go through.
Oh my gosh, it is so hard. I mean, you're doing great. I mean, it took me 5 years to get where you are right now. Very, very difficult time with that, So, I want to encourage you to continue doing what you're doing in the way that you're doing it. And I want to open this up now. If there's anybody in the chat room or listening on Facebook right now on the link that Amelia set up for us, or somebody is calling in and you want to add to this conversation, well, feel free to write out a question or write out a comment that you might have that can help Priya. That can, if I'm not covering it in a way that you're covering it, well, then feel free to jump on in, because losing these attachments are extremely important to the Kundalini transformation. It's really essential that people begin to take control of how they think and how they feel within a relationship context. You want to develop these muscles, Priya, because, for the very next relationship that comes along, you will want to have a less of a needy type of mindset, less of a dependent type of mindset that pushes, so much pressure on the partner that dependency and that neediness can drive them away. Right? And do you think that's what happened?
Well, it's as of now, at least, that neediness has not, sink in. Good. But you never know, right?
Well, so Michelle brings up something. She says, "Can we talk a bit more about forgiving and let go? During meditation, it was very still, and at the end, I heard the word forgive and let go. I've been working on this for some time now. Have you been working on that too, Priya? The forgiving and the letting go?"
Oh, absolutely, Chrism. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
I know you have. And it's just not that easy with everybody. I mean, some of us are far more involved with our heart chakra and the requirements of the heart chakra than other people, and it does take time. As Michelle's writing, it takes time, and it does take time, Priya. And I want you to give yourself that time and that exercise. Develop those muscles. take yourself into selfless service for others. Take yourself into doing your job exceptionally well. Take yourself into meditation. And really take yourself into devotion, Priya. You know this will help you.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. And I had to hear your voice today. My Kriya started, while we are talking.
So we'll have to set that up because it's an important part of the process. And I want to thank you for bringing that up. I really, really want to thank you for bringing it up. It's so very, very important. And I want to thank you, Michelle, for giving your feedback into this. It's very appropriate, very perfect. I mean, to forgive and let go, and to hear that in a meditation from the voice of Kundalini, to forgive and let go, forgive and let go. That is so helpful for people. As hard as it is to still do, it's a very, very helpful instruction. So thank you, Michelle. And thank you, Priya. Thank you very much, my dear.
Thank you to both of you as well. Appreciate it.
And there we have Priya. And I'm going to go to another phone here. Hello, caller. Your area code 289-600.
Hi, Chrism. It's Indra.
Today? Hi, Indra. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Do you have a question or a comment?
Yes, I do. Well, in regards to relationship, if this helps Priya at all, I remember when I found out something very shocking about my husband. I was married for 20 years, and I went into shock and had to go into the ER treated. And when I got out, and I made a decision that nobody was going to put me in that position again. And the next day, I had full-blown Kundalini. The Kundalini grabbed a hold of me, I guess, and I went into full-blown. I feel when you give up the control and you really, really give it up, I think the Kundalini comes in.
Well,
and halfway through my process, I had met a guy.
It doesn't always follow an emotional thing. A heartbreak can really bring it on, for sure.
It brought it on for me.
Yeah, not always for everyone.
Okay. So, and there was the second time when halfway through I was dating a guy, and he took up my time, so I really didn't have much time for Kundalini. And I made a decision. I let him go, and that's when my heart chakra opened up. It's weird. I don't know if it's a coincidence. I don't know if it was a lesson or was just meant to be.
Well, I think it's interesting that you consciously let him go. You did
he
what we're talking about right here.
He took up my time with the Kundalini, and I had no time to meditate, jog, my diet, and it really made me unhappy. And I let him. I came home, thought about it, and I said, there is no way I can do both, and I let him go. And the very next day, my heart chakra fully opened. That's when I called you.
How do you separate a full-blown awakening to heart chakra fully opening?
Well, halfway through, that's the first relationship was with my husband. Halfway into my process, I would say, I had met another guy who took up my time. It was a second relationship. And he took up my time, and I had no time for the Kundalini. It made me unhappy. I came home, I let him go. And then the very next day, about a month ago, my heart chakra opened fully. I don't know if it's connected.
Well, it is connected with full-blown, as you say, Kundalini. That means everything's open. Everything. Heart, face, sacral, throat, everything is open.
I mean like the timing.
I think your first was a partial, and then she gave you a test. She gave you a test with the guy that was taking up your time, and then that when you passed that test, the rest of the development occurred.
Yeah, honestly, and I just feel
nicely done.
Yes. So I have a question.
Sure.
So last month I called you about a month ago. That was in regards to my heart chakra when it's fully spun. So a lot has changed. I went through a very distinct centering of my energy. It was almost like a straight line from my spine all the way up to my crown. I went through that for maybe 4 days, and from my heart, my head, from my neck all the way up to my head feels like a globe, an electric globe, and it's just spinning in every direction, but smooth and fast.
Well, that's good. That sounds like a good positive thing.
Okay. And what I noticed, Chrism, I noticed that my crown chakra would go count 5, and then it spins the other way almost the same time. Like before,
That's
it
not
would
a bad
do.
thing either.
Okay. And okay, so
yeah, that's good. That's normal. That's very good.
Okay, so my energy that towered me was like 100%. You know how full-blown Kundalini is? It towers you and it takes you over.
Yeah.
So it went from that to, I would say, 25%. My energy lessened at least by 75%. It's very blissful all through the day, all through the night. I'm very blissful. It's hard to focus, but my energy calmed down by a good 75%.
It sounds
good?
It sounds like, to me, it sounds like things are going well.
Okay.
Yeah, were you
so
expecting
it's supposed
it to always
calm
stay
down
at
like that?
Were you always expecting it to stay at the same frequency, the same strength?
Oh my God! I prayed it would
everything?
not.
Yeah, and your prayers were answered.
Okay, so what happens after that 25%? I mean,
well,
I go ahead.
Well, what happens is, if you can imagine, you know what a vibrato is?
No.
Vibrato. Here, let me show you a vibrato. Straight tones sound like this. T. That's a straight tone, right? Straight tone. Vibrato is this. T. That's a vibrato.
Right.
You hear the waveform in the tone, right?
Yes.
So it's the waveform that the Kundalini will typically take within the transformation process. And so with the vibrato, you go T, so you have the up and the down and the up and the down. And so if your 25% is at the valley of the sine wave, then you might want to prepare yourself for the upswing, the uptick of the energy. And then that'll reach a certain height, and then it will come down again.
Really?
Yeah, up and down, up and down, up and down. And what changes, the variation that changes is instead of having a tight type of vibrato, you have a very, very wide and broad vibrato, like it can become like that instead of very tight vibrato like I showed you before. And so it's very interesting that you're having that, but it is also very common for Kundalini people to have this type of a manifestation.
Wow. Because it's been constant for 3 years, right?
It'll be that way for a while. 3 years. You might want to equate 3 years to being a 3-year-old child.
Really?
And what does a 3-year-old child have to look forward to as far as any kind of development that would occur upon their body?
Yeah, a lot.
A lot.
Yes.
And so that's where we are at 3 years
So
old.
you're saying it could go right back to 100%?
Oh yeah, it can really increase, and it can also really slow down. And because we're talking about attachment with regards to Priya's scenario, you might want to look at your attachment to the status quo of the energy and maybe reduce that attachment so that you don't form an expectation of
I really heard you say that over and over at the group. I've read how many you said it many times, and I have stayed conscious of that. I have really stayed in the sense that, of course, you want to know, right? Because the energy took a different twist altogether, right? And everybody wants to know. Kundalini is not like an everyday occurrence, right?
That's
and
right.
we're curious, but Chrism, listen, there's no way to run. There is no way to escape this. So let me tell you, I'm not kicking, I'm not fighting, I'm not fussing, I'm not running. I'm not running. I have made a decision. There is no way to run. And whatever comes. But
That's
I
right.
really thought that. Go ahead.
You're right on target, Indra. You're right on target.
Yeah, I'm not running anymore, Chrism. Not from anything. Nothing. I've ran all my life. I have ran. And I'm done running, and whatever comes. But I really believe that it was hitting like a plateau, right? Unaware that it could just escalate again.
Oh, yeah. It'll escalate again.
It was good to know. So,
definitely.
Okay, so my crown chakra, one more quick thing. It feels like a rod.
Yeah.
From the center going up, it feels like a rod.
It's coming right out of your fontanelle, and that's the cone, Kundalini cone. And there are two auras around a person. You have a corona that is around the crown. And then you have the extension of that corona, which is the actual auric field that extends, around typical people around, say, 6 to 9 feet around the person. Kundalini people extend much further. But your corona has that it's like you say, like a rod of energy going, from the spine through the cone, right over the fontanelle. So it's exiting the fontanelle and going straight up, and turns into, when I look at that, I see it as in my interpretation of a bodhisattva. And that changes into this huge...
A what? Say that word again.
A bodhisattva.
I dreamt that. I dreamt that word, and I looked it up, and it's weird how you said that. I had a dream of that a week ago.
Yeah. So a Kundalini person's bodhisattva is very, very beautiful, and it extends from that rod and that cone of energy that's coming through the top of your head and flowing down and around your head. It's kind of like a connection to divinity.
Wow.
And very, very beautiful. Very nurture it, enjoy it, be thankful and grateful for it. It's a beautiful thing. You may find that you're ducking under doorways because it's just the bodhisattva is, impacting it. You may find that going through tunnels can be uncomfortable because, once again, the bodhisattva is impacting it, or these tight spaces. But it doesn't hurt the bodhisattva at all. It doesn't hurt it, but it is. You can feel it. It's the thing.
It's obvious. It just feels like a rod, an extension, like it's going right through the skull, the crown chakra, and it feels like it stiffens, like it's stiff, so you can feel the rod.
Yes, absolutely. You can, indeed. It is very tactile. Nice to hear that you have it. Nice to hear it. You go, girl.
You. Pardon me?
I said, you go, girl. You're doing great.
That's because I'm not running. That's all I know. That's the thing I know for sure. Because I've been off work since June till the next school year. I'll go back to work in September in the new school year. And I've had time. My son's on vacation, so I'm meditating. I'm like cut off from society, which I needed. I needed
Yeah.
that. And, I go back to work in September, and I want to make the most of this time.
Sounds like you're doing that.
Yes.
Keep it
Well,
up.
listen, thank you. And, it's always a pleasure. And
Indeed.
I have to tell you, I love you from the bottom of my heart. If you don't know it, now I'm telling you, I love you from the bottom of my heart. You have guided me well. And I followed all your instructions, and I remember how many times you said, work on the attachment, don't get attached to the process. I've heard you've said that so many times, and it stayed with me. And even if I'm struggling, I'm conscious, I can't get attached to the process.
Well, you're doing really well. The Bodhisattva is a very particular development, so keep going. You're doing very well, and make sure that you walk in this grace of gratitude to the Kundalini, for truly it's the Kundalini that has been guiding you, my dear.
Well, the Kundalini put people to speak English too, so that we can,
That's true. That's true.
Yes,
she does indeed.
That's someone that speaks our language.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Listen, thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you very much, and I'll be listening to the show.
Okay, all right. So there you have it. Wow, I had no idea we were going to cover a Bodhisattva today. Very cool thing here, and I'm going to go on over here. I think this is Minnesota, and it's 651-894. Hello, caller. Hello, 894.
Maybe that's me.
Oh, is this Joey?
I'm on my cell phone, and I don't know my cell phone's number.
So Joey, I'm gonna break it to everybody. How is your new mantra that I gave you working for you? Tell them what that's like. Since it's brand new to you, what is that like?
Yesterday, I did that mantra 20 times, and each time I finished, I wanted to continue and do it again. But because of commitments, there were things that I had to do besides say a mantra. But it has become something that that is just wants to be a part of me.
That's interesting that you phrase it that way, because it does have a consciousness to it. It does have a conscious connection. Well, it's actually a conscious connection to your Kundalini, and the Kundalini wants you to do that mantra. And I'm not surprised that you're feeling the compelling, and I want to congratulate you for feeling that compelling to do it again and again and again. And as much as you can, do it. Do it. I know that we have to chop the wood and haul the water, and to take care of our mundane needs and responsibilities. That's true, and you must do that. But around those taking care of those needs, we can set aside time, as you have done, and to do our mantra work. It can be very important to our development. Nicely done. All right. I'll let you get back to listening to the show here. And I'm going to come up to another 651 phone number here, and 329-9615. Who would this be? I'm getting a Mother Superior feel here.
Yes, you're right about that. But I can do my announcement now, but that's not why I punched the number one. When I was listening to the other two gals, very powerful, and what I was recognizing that I have not a significant other in my life, but I have in these last few weeks especially, and a little bit before that growingly, a shift in myself regarding my work. Now, I haven't expressed this. I haven't talked with you, Chrism, about it, but I've been aware of it, and it's different. And I don't like that either, because I liked the way in which I was able to accomplish things, and that's shifting. And
right.
I'm trying.
So how are you trusting? Tell us about your trust.
Well, I just keep plugging along, but my the weakness is the concern and the worry that I generate. That's where I know that there's a lack of trust, and I talk to myself now and then when I see and I hear something or I know something, and I will start to worry, and I'll just say no. I've been able at times to not worry about something, or to just trust and let it be, so that there's a lot more to let go of than before. And yet the underlying skill, I think, that I've used probably all my life was working hard and it being effective. And I know that this work is not that, but it's the groundwork or the backdrop, or it's something. Is that making any sense?
No, yeah, it definitely makes sense. It's supporting the change. It's supporting the transformation.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, which is good. So I would just say continue to trust and continue to have faith. It's one of the things that I didn't get to in the opening monologue was how, the people are so nervous about the transformation because you're not being able to think the way you used to think, and you're not feeling the way you used to feel, which is more along the lines of your case, Rosemary. Mm-hmm. And we wonder, it's like, what is going on here? And how something's got to be wrong, something's off. I'm not feeling the same way. I'm not being able to think the same way about this work that I'm doing. And so oh my God, what can I do? And the most important thing you can do is to trust the process, to really trust the process. And as I've said on this program many times, in order to develop trust, you cannot know the answers. Can't know the answers. Otherwise, you don't need to trust. Because you know the answer. And so a big factor within this, and it's a constant factor, ladies and gentlemen, it's a constant factor of the requirement of needing to trust the process. Now, that doesn't mean that the process can't bring in things that you need to look at with a very, very discerning eye, like say a voice comes into your mind, like say Santara's got right now. It's like a negative entity comes in and says, okay, yeah, Chrism's fine, whatever, but you see that wallet the guy left on the ground out there? He's got over $500 in that wallet. Don't you think you could use $500 right now? Go over there and get that thing. Come on, Emma. Come on, Michelle. Come on, Tim. Come on, Vicki. Go on over and get that wallet. That's right. Just think what you can do with $500. This literally occurs. I'm not making this up. This stuff occurs. And so you don't want to trust that instruction that the Kundalini has allowed to come into your consciousness, except that you do. You want to trust that she knows that you have enough discernment to know not to follow that erroneous advice. In other words, you want to do the opposite. You want to go get that wallet and give it to the guy and say, hey, here's your wallet. You left it on the bench. Okay, that level of trust is what I would like everybody to begin to formulate. Because no matter if there's an entity or a feeling or a kriya or an intuition or whatever, if it doesn't live up to the morality and the high ethics of Kundalini, well then you need to correct that. You need to do the reversals, and make those corrections and still understand that you're inside of a test. What are you doing, Rosemary? You're You're cutting something. You're making noises here. You're still making noises.
Oh, it might be creaking of the. I wasn't doing anything.
So go ahead and make your
still.
announcement, my dear. Make your announcement.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Let me reach here. I am delighted to make the announcement that October 28th and 29th, and the week before, Chrism will be here with us in the Twin Cities, and he will be leading a seminar those 2 days, that Saturday and Sunday. And it will be in Mankato. We've been there several times doing expos and other things, and there's a lot of interest there in Mankato, and we'll be around Rochester also with some Kundalini Conversations. And we have the seminar scheduled at American CINN Hotel and Conference Center in Mankato. And that, I'm sure, Googling will get you there. The phone number I have too, but anybody can call me for information. And 651-329-9615. Rosemary G at usinternet.com. And
how do you spell Mankato? How do you spell Mankato?
Mankato.
Okay, so
Minnesota.
Mankato. T is in Tom.
No.
Mankato?
No, just one N.
Okay, Mankato, right?
Yes.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Rosemary. Thank you for that announcement. And I'm going to make another announcement right now. And we're also having a Berlin seminar in the city of Berlin on the 15th, 16th, and 17th of September, right before the U.S. Seminar in Minnesota. And the contact person for that is Manisha. And you can reach Manisha at Manisha, M-A-N-E-E-S-H-A, Manish, and their last name would be M-A-N-E-E-S-H, on Facebook. And you can get all the information that you need to get, for that Berlin seminar from Manisha there. She is the organizer, just like she was last year. And that was a very successful seminar, and I look forward to another very successful event in the city of Berlin, in the country of Germany, in the continent of Europe. And look forward to seeing everybody there in Europe and in other places like Asia and South Africa, and even some folks maybe from the United States who happen to be in Europe at the time. So with those announcements being made, we'll come back here and continue on with our program now. Let's see. I think it's time for me to bring in some questions here, and Centaura was kind enough to give me some questions that I could read from here. I got to get on over to Skype here. Just a second. And here she goes. And here we go. Okay. So the first question is Rosemary, you're still on, right?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So just as long as I can be heard, it's a little different if I'm like on Skype and on Blog Talk at the same time. I don't want, sometimes programs will, contradict each other. So you can hear me clearly, right?
Yeah, I can, and I think you need to just press the 1 again to put me back in.
Oh no, I don't want to put you back in. If you can hold still, you gonna hold still?
Oh, sure. I'll be still.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Are Kundalini and sacred fluid retention related? And yes, they're related. Sacred fluid is referring to sperm or vaginal fluids, and they're related in how the Kundalini uses them to transform the body by infusing itself, the Kundalini, with that reproductive fluid, whether it's a vaginal secretion or a testicular secretion, this is what the Kundalini uses, and it uses it as by backflowing it into the spinal cord. And a lot of the MDs are going to be, well, we haven't discovered an orifice that leads from these areas into the spinal cord. Well, you know what? Just because we haven't discovered it doesn't mean it's not there, my friends. And I know they're going to say, well, show us where the orifice is that does. And Kundalini doesn't really need an orifice. I mean, bones are porous. Bones themselves offer a multitude of orifice for this type of an energized plasma to come through and straight into the spinal cord. So this is how it is related, and that is how it gets there. And so we have another one, and it's part 2 from the same person. In the above context, meaning the sacred fluid retention, is it true that those who have complete mastery on their sexual instincts can conserve, transmute, and direct this energy continuously towards the crown, i.e., see, that's a conscious, egotistic-driven type of scenario. And, the whole conscious, egotistic type of control over the Kundalini is really not what I would call mastery. It's not hard, really, to get mastery over your sexual organs, through the sexual function. It's not hard to do that. And then if you're following some of these teachers that want you to do the cool draw if you're a male. Oh, and is that you, Rosemary? Here, I'm gonna get you into the blue here. The cool draw, which is like pulling the fluids from the abdominals and then forcing them up into the spine, and then forcing that energy from the lower spine up through and forcing it into the crown. This to me is not masterful at all. This to me is egotism, using some knowledge to try to force the gates of heaven or storm the gates of heaven. And this can be very, very deleterious to people. You need to form a relationship with your Kundalini, not try to let your ego take control and force these issues that will not help you. That will not help you. That can actually hurt you. And so I do not see that as masterful, even though I know other people do. So no, it is not true that those who have complete mastery of their sexual instincts can conserve, transmute, and direct this energy continuously towards the crown. This is, first of all, it's not mastery, it's an egotistic. And second of all, when the ego does it, it's not really Kundalini. It's more of a chi direction than anything else. So we'll move on to the next question here. And the question says, I'm an epileptic and I went off my meds but had bad seizures. Hit my head 3 nights ago, have black eyes. I'm petrified what I should and shouldn't do. Anxiety is overwhelming at the moment. What can I do? Go back on your epileptic meds is what I would do. Go back on your anti-seizures and continue your meditation and continue changing your life to suit the Kundalini. Changing your level of fear response, I think, would be very helpful as well. And that's what's causing the anxiety. Fear and anxiety go hand in hand. And so don't let that fear or that anxiety overwhelm you. You have information. You have information that you have Kundalini. Let that information form a basis of power and control over your anxiety and fear. And don't have any caffeine, whatever you do. No caffeine for you. And so there we have it. Now, if anybody in the chat room has a question, or another person listening to the program has a question, feel free to, if you're calling in, put that little question mark up there and I'll be able to see that. And if you're in the chat room, go ahead and write it out and I'll be happy to read it on the air. I'm going back to more questions here. And then let's see, coming into The next question says, I read online that Kundalini lies dormant at the base of the spine, and it is, quote, waiting to be awakened, unquote. Is it true that Kundalini is waiting? Is it a passive energy depending on the person to wake it up from its dormancy? No, it is not true that the Kundalini is a passive energy. When people say that it's waiting, that's just a way of explaining why it isn't coming forth immediately. You might say that is a fruit waiting to be ripened? Is the pear on the pear tree waiting to get ripe? Is it waiting there? Is it checking its watch, its Timex watch every now and again and go, oh, it's not time yet? No, it's not. And so it's kind of a silly question. I mean, we're using it in the context that evolution is happening to a person, and just like it is with the pear. And as the pear evolves within its ripening context, so is the person evolving within their Kundalini context. And once that area begins to be activated from the Kundalini, the person will also feel it as a level of instruction that is given to them to begin the process of activating it, whether they consciously know it or not. The ego doesn't know these things most of the time, but the rest of the body does. So all of a sudden, they might just kind of go, well, gosh, I think I should be doing yoga. Wow, that looks really, really interesting. Yeah, I think I'll be doing some yoga. And so boom, boom, the person starts doing yoga, and they start getting into the yoga, and they hear some Sanskrit words, and the Sanskrit words may begin to develop a severe interest in it. It's like, oh, wow, maybe I should be saying, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah. And they do that, and then they're doing that with their yoga, and then their body begins to breathe in a certain way, and it's not in the person's control. They're doing Vastrika, really heavy breathing through the nostrils. Then they start doing alternate nostril breathing, and then boom, Kundalini comes up. And that's a simplified version. I'm oversimplifying it, but it is not incorrect. And so we'll move on to the next question here. And the question is, I've been struggling lately, especially with the current political climate. I have been told that this is no time to be spiritual, and that I must get involved and fight for what's right. There is never a time that is not a good time to be spiritual. Spirituality is the whole reason we're even here. It's not to fight for political correctness. That falls into the realm of the mundane. We're talking here within the divine context. And divinity is what has allowed us to be here. Divinity has designed and given us these bodies, given us the DNA, given us the RNA, given us all the building blocks of the body, given us an ego consciousness, allowed us to make the agreement that when we go into this physical creation that they've created for us, that we have to undergo a level of forgetfulness, so that we have to rediscover with each life, we rediscover the spiritual benefits of spirituality. And the physical benefits of spirituality, when you come into Kundalini, there's a physical and spiritual benefit of the spirituality and the movement towards divine grace and the evolution towards divine humanity. And yeah, that's what it's really all about. I hate to say it, it's not about people fighting each other over politics. Let's see. And then the next question is, she says, not really a question. Looking for your further comment. Okay, all right. Chrism, you wrote on the group, not all truths can be given. Some are not yet for the ears of others, but must remain within the sanctuary of our inner grace. You don't want to tell everybody that you have the Kundalini, is my answer, which is what I'm trying to say here. You don't want to tell people that, wow, I had this amazing Kriya today. I was wrapped up like a pretzel. I was alternate nostril breathing. I had a total sexual experience while I was doing that without a fluidic response. And at the same time, I was watching and contemplating a butterfly landing on a flower on my windowsill. They're not going to understand. They'll probably be okay with the butterfly part, but being wrapped up like a pretzel and having a sexual experience and all of these things, they're not going to understand that. It's just going to scare them. It's going to frighten them. And so you need to keep that to yourself. And this includes the visions that we would have, within a Kundalini context, the visions of angels, or the visions of entities, or the visions of a frosting of light over everything within the visual field, or the visions of bright lights floating across your visual field, hearing voices, hearing sounds, feeling things that other people can't feel or see or touch or taste. Smelling incense where it's not being burned. Smelling lilacs where there are no flowers. Okay, being able to hear crickets where there are no crickets. These types of things, you don't, in the West here, I don't know how it is in other places, but I think it's pretty much all over. We want to share our fantastic experiences with other people. We really do. We want to share those things. Oh my God, I just saw this really weird head come out of a wall, and it was like dripping saliva all over my couch, and it was like turning, and its eyes were like this weird green, and it had the snout like a pig, and it was looking, it was saying, hey, how are you, Chrism? You don't want to say that to people. It could get you in trouble. And so that's what I mean by saying it. We need to keep it within the sanctuary of our inner grace. In other words, what is happening to you is a sacred thing. It's sacred. And you don't throw sacred things in front of people who cannot grasp them or appreciate them or understand them. It will just frighten them. This is what I'm saying. And that's important because we all like to share. We all enjoy sharing. It's important. This is why, I have these groups. One of the reasons why I have these groups is so that people can share without, having an ambulance called on them and a straitjacket forced upon them. It's important to be able to share. It's really important now. Some of you really only have this place to share. I mean, you've got a couple of kids at home. The rest of your family, and your kids don't know about this. The rest of your family doesn't know about this. None of your friends know about this. None of them. All you have really are your dog and your cat and your horse, if you have a horse. And the horses understand. The horses get this. The cats get this. The dog gets this. But the rest of the people, they don't get this. So you've got to keep your blessings in this way to yourself. It's the safest thing to do for you, and it's the safest thing to do for them as well. It's not for people that don't know what we're talking about. Now, there are some searchers, people that are combing through the web, and a lot of the people that are combing through the web, they're combing through for they're looking for superpowers. Captain America, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. And I just saw the Wonder Woman movie, and I suggest it to all Kundalini people because there's a lot of relevancy to Kundalini that they didn't know they wrote into that. But anyway, people are looking for those superpowers. They want to be able to, jump over tall buildings and fly as fast as a speeding bullet, I think is how it went. And no, this is not the right way, but it begins to introduce them to Kundalini. And if they can change their mindset, they can probably chalk up their interest in it as a calling from the Kundalini, using the promise of superpowers as a way to get them into the evolution. But other than that, it's Vicky writes, in the open group, they see comments about it. And this is true. This is true. I purposefully opened that group to the public. Let me tell you, I had a lot of pressure to keep that group private. And we're talking about the Kundalini Awakening exclamation group that's on Facebook, has about 14 or 15,000 members to it. And I purposefully kept that an open group, and I do most of my work on that group because it is open to the public. And it's important for people to be able, the public, to be able to read about this without any fear of discovery. People need to be able to get the information and to be okay with their anonymity. Now, the other groups that I have, like Kundalini Awakening Systems 2, Kundalini Awakening Systems 1, Kundalini Awakening Systems 3. The 3 group is a public group. The second group is a closed group. The first group is a private group. And then Kundalini People right now is a public group. Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 on Yahoo groups is public. And so is Kundalini Healing on Yahoo. And Kundalini Virgins on the Yahoo network is public. And so are some of the various other groups I have in the Yahoo network. And then, of course, we have Kundalini Awakening exclamation point on the Google Plus network. And then, so a lot of it is, I was given the instruction by my Kundalini to go for public outreach. And this is why this has occurred that way. And I apologize to those of you that would like to have it as a private scenario. I'm not allowed to keep it as a private scenario, except for those areas where privacy has been allowed, in the areas that I just described. And so there we have it. And moving on to the next question here. Here we'll go over here. And so I just did the not all truths can be given. And another question is, today I sat down for meditation after taking a break, as meditation was making the back of my head have a burning sensation. Something strange happened deep into the meditation. As I was grateful to the K, the Kundalini, I felt as if my head was pulled gently upwards, and the sensation continued on and on until I strangely felt really long. I'm using the word long as I could still feel myself on the seat I was on, and my head was very, very far apart from the seat. After some time, I felt as though the elongation reduced rather quickly to my normal size. This is another kind of an expansion that the Kundalini will give into a person. This person will probably have a cone, such as Indra described, fairly soon. That energetic pole will insert itself into the fontanelle and begin to flow as a bodhisattva around the corona, the crown of the individual. And it's very good. This is a very healthy thing. I want that person, if they're listening on Facebook, if you're listening right now, I want you to be very confident in this. It's a very definite, beautiful evolution of your energy. Nothing to worry about. And they asked, why did the back of my head burn so much before? I clearly felt the heat rise up my spine, which was soothing, but the burning sensation in the head was bad. The burning sensation is basically letting go of some certain blockages within the back of the head at the hammer point, basically bringing the energy into a higher octave of frequency so that when it did go into your head, it had the ability to stretch that head really long. And for some people, it stretches it really wide and really long and begins the process of the transformation of the crown. And yeah, it was very good. Excellent. And what it indicates is pretty good progress for that individual. And let's see. Okay, so can you please further comment on these quotes? First quote, everyone and everything is our teacher. That's true and not true at the same time. Within a Kundalini context, I will challenge you to ask a rock what the Mahabandha is. Go ahead, everyone. Go and find a rock and ask the rock what the Mahabandha is and wait for the answer. I'll wait for you here. That's right. Everything can be our teacher, but we're not always going to have access to that knowledge. And so to expect everyone and everything to be our teacher is kind of it's an incorrect statement. Because we have to go to the level where those teachings can be received. And yet it's correct at the same time, because everything from an infant to an old wise person living on top of a mountain in a cave, they all have something to teach. But can you access the information? Are you willing to climb that mountain to hear it from that person? Are you willing to make that child in order to hear it from that child? So life teaches us, but Kundalini also teaches us. And Kundalini is the progenitor of life on this world. So the Kundalini would be the Maha teacher, or the most powerful form of teaching on this world. And you don't get to minimize it by saying everyone and everything is our teacher. Kundalini is not just everyone or everything, and yet it is everyone and everything. And it is the teacher that will guide you through this process. It may use a flesh teacher like myself to go through, or it may not. Not everybody has the internet. I didn't. When my process started, I didn't have the internet. There were no books on this either. Tells you how old I am. But for those of you that do have access to these teachings, then she has given you two teachers, one within you and one outside of you. And you can partake of them as you wish. And the next quote is Chrism. Oh, I see. She went to the last question. Next question. This is all related. Question. Question. My understanding is that when we go within, it is there where we come closer and clearer to source consciousness. And by letting go of attachments and desires is how we go beyond the needs of the ego. Help me out here. When we go within, it depends on what they're considering source consciousness to be. I would say Kundalini would be actual source consciousness. Letting go of attachments and desires is a great way to go beyond the ego. I don't disagree with that. But going within is going to Kundalini in the context that I'm speaking of. And by letting go of attachments and desires is how we allow ourselves to go deeper within. And I don't think they need any help. I think they're, if they can elude Kundalini to source consciousness, then they'll be just fine. Next question. Hi, Chrism. Could you give an example of acknowledging and then releasing a divergent need, please? Just trying to get my head around it and understanding it fully. It's kind of the same thing as it's using different words for letting go of attachments and desires. These would be considered divergent needs. Divergent, like diverting our attention away from what we're trying to do. So making a hockey or a soccer game more important than meditation. That would be letting go of the need to watch that competition and go into our meditation. That's what I'm talking about with regards to that question. Divergent distraction is another way. And moving onward, let's see. It's very weird for me to be not doing this on a Wednesday. Oh, that's and let's see. So there we have it. Now, if anybody else has a question, Emma, Michelle, Vicky, or anybody else that's calling in, make sure that you feel free to, if you're calling in, put a question mark next to your name so that I can see that you have a question. And of course, those in the chat room, feel free to write about it. I'm going to go a little further into this this feeling of not feeling right about how things are going. The ego is going to rebel against the transformation. The ego is going to rebel against it, and it's going to transmit a feeling of displeasure into your being. And as it transmits this displeasure into your being, you're going to feel that something's not right. And yet it is right. Don't try to push your way or force your way through the level of transformation that is fogging up your brain right now. Don't try to do that. It is not what you want to do. That's a form of resistance and insistence. You're insisting that the Kundalini does what you want it to do. And what I'm going to suggest is that you don't insist in this way. You allow it to occur. You notice that she's not taking you away to take care of your mundane things. You can still pay your bills. You can still go shopping, buy your food. You can drive your car. You can operate the garage door. These things. You can mow the lawn. You can work in the garden. You can do all these things. But as far as projecting into the future things that you want to do, maybe she's not allowing you to do that because maybe she wants you to do this work with more intensity and less distraction. Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Think about that. More intensification on the work that's being done rather than more intensification on your wants and desires to be appreciated. Michelle Ranger is writing. She says, I have some tightness and pain in my heart chakra and solar chakra area during meditation today. Is that a blockage? Not necessarily. Actually, Michelle, as you go into your meditation and let's see, it was in your heart chakra, solar plexus. So that tells me that your diaphragm is starting to tighten up. Can you write to me and let me know if you feel that it was the diaphragm? Was the diaphragm trying to force itself under your rib cage? You think that might have been it? Many of the muscle groups will get tightened by the Kundalini, and sometimes that can be painful because we're not used to having those muscle groups worked in those combinations and then tightened within those combinations. And so it doesn't necessarily indicate a blockage. Now, it can indicate a blockage, but I'm not seeing that for you. I'm seeing that she's working a different form of a Kriya with you, and it looks like it's a diaphragmatic Kriya developing. Yeah, and Michelle says yes, and this is natural, Michelle. This is one of the ways that she pulls the energy upwards. And she says she's been doing some stretches that the Kundalini's given her to do. And yeah, so this is a way of allowing the muscle groups of the solar plexus and the heart chakra to become redefined and transformed as a way of pulling the energy higher, allowing that infusion to infuse the heart chakra and the third chakra area. And typically the response for that is going to have a tightening in different combinations of the muscle groups of the fourth and the third chakra. And the one muscle group that goes between the two, the upper third and the lower fourth, is the diaphragm. And that diaphragm can get very, very tight. And you can feel it kind of like wanting to go under the rib cage, wanting to push itself kind of up under the rib cage. And this is actually a diaphragmatic kriya, and it is part of the Mahabandha kriya complex. And so with the Mahabandha, you have the sphincter, you have the eyes, you have the fingers, you have the chin, and you have the diaphragmatic kriya. And that when all these 5 things happen together, you have the Mahabandha, which is the master lock, or the greatest lock. And you breathe within that. So you tighten the sphincter, your eyes go up, your fingers are locked in the Gyan position, your chin is slightly towards your chest, and your diaphragm is kind of tucked under your chest bone, and boom, you're in the lock. You're in the lock. So there you go, Michelle. Something for you to perhaps embrace. I think that would work well for you, Michelle Ranger. If you can do that, go for that Mahabandha. She's kind of guiding you in that direction already. So there you have it, folks. There you have it. And I don't have any more questions. And I just want to thank everybody for calling in. And I see you writing, Michelle, and I'll definitely respond to you. Priya, thank you for calling in with that very, very important issue that you brought up, an excellent teaching for everybody, as is yours, Indra, your teaching, and Rosemary's teaching, and Joey with the mantra. All of these things really, really, really help a lot of people. And I want to thank each and every one of you who have been listening and who have been asking questions and allowing the Kundalini and myself to respond. I want to thank everyone for coming to this program today. I know it's kind of a little different because Santara's not here, and so we all miss her. And I don't think she'll be here for the next couple shows either, so just brace yourself. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, who have tuned in on the Facebook connection, and I will end it the way I started it, a little bit earlier. And Vicky is writing. She says, I would like to set up a time for a mantra, but finding privacy around here. Okay. I have off tomorrow. Well, let's give it a call. Let's do that, Vicky. I think that would be a good thing for you to do. One of the things, though, the first things you're going to have to start looking into is devotion. So kind of run that through yourself and start looking at devotion as a possibility for yourself. And everybody, thank you for calling in. Vicky, go ahead and contact me in private, and we'll talk about this. You can contact me on the Facebook there. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And here we go.
An alle Frauen, die gesagt haben, mir fehle das gewisse Extra. Ich hab's jetzt. Von Sinaiko. Und euch gebe ich nix davon ab.
Hast du's auch schon? Sinaiko extra fruchtig. Jetzt in 3 leckeren Sorten mit 10% Frucht. Gönn dir dein Extra.
Die Sinaiko schmeckt.
Und jetzt neu. Sinaiko extra zuckerfrei. 0% Zucker, 100% Geschmack.